As a lot of you all have figured out, Tony Basilio is one of the hardest working people in the radio talk show industry I know. He just is. And when he sent me a text last week saying, I am too sick to do my own show and I'm too sick to come on yours, I knew he was sick. And so let's get the health report right off the bat, sponsored by the Mayo Clinic. Are you alive?
Barely, man. I've had COVID and got really sick
No.
with it. And yeah, I'll send you and Kelly a photo later of how I showed up at the doctor's office. But I had a dish rag on my head. My temperature was just like burning up. And
Oh my God.
yeah, man, crazy.
So are you better?
I'm feeling somewhat better, but I'm not like great. But I'm just trying to, I'm trying not to go get a secondary infection. My doctor warned me. He was like, people like you try to get up and run before you can, and don't, kind of take it easy.
Did you take it easy Saturday?
Yeah, I only did 4.5 hours post game after that game with a fever.
Oh, that's not good.
Not good, man.
So what was the reaction?
I mean, people are just kind of shocked, like this is a weird thing that's started to happen under Heupel, a little bit of a trend dating back to the South Carolina game last year, which is take a team on the road in a game that you should at least be in or competitive in or maybe win and just get obliterated, not show up. That was bad Saturday, George.
So you're a lot closer to it than I am. What's your theory on that?
I don't have a theory. I don't think they have a theory. I was talking to somebody about Heupel today, and they say around the complex, he just looks kind of, like he hadn't slept and just kind of like out of answers. And I think they were shocked by the way that went on Saturday, George. And I don't think there's any sugarcoating what happened there. Their team did not look ready or prepared or, schematically in that game. They just didn't look good at all.
So now that sets up this deal that everybody has had circled for months. November 18th, everybody was hoping was for the SEC East, for national title possibilities, even though that seemed a little extreme. What do you think they show up as Saturday? Is it the continuance of the blahs or a totally maniacal, we're letting it all loose?
George, it's college football, so anything's possible. My sense of where they are right now is they're pretty beat up. They lost another wide receiver they could ill afford to lose Saturday, which on the Thornton kid making a great catch in the end zone, really their lone highlight, if you will, of the game. And Neyland Stadium, the numbers are 13 and 26. So Tennessee's won 13 straight in that building, including a win over Florida and then last year's classic with Alabama. But Georgia's won 26 straight college football games. And they're coming to town. I'm referring to them on my show this week as a gathering storm. That's what Georgia looks like to me. And until I see differently, I think Georgia's going to rain it down on Tennessee. I don't see how the Vols, the way they've played, and especially the way Tennessee's defending. Since Kamal Hadden went out, Tennessee's decided to go with this goofy zone defense and this finesse defense instead of getting upfield and rushing the passer and just trying to use their linebackers to some extent to get at quarterbacks. They've been extremely passive with their defense, and it's turned into some really horrible play on the field, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's go to the, what did you call it? Not impending storm of Georgia.
Gathering storm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Beck has gotten way better. And now he's got, miraculously, a Bowers who looks completely healthy. And you know as well as I do that Bowers, just his mere presence, opens up so many other possibilities for them. I'm kind of with you on gathering storm.
Yeah. You know, we live in an era of opt-outs too, right? Where that's the thing. Or, you know, coaches going into business for themselves, players going into business for themselves, and it's understood. Here's a guy that rushed to come back. Not only did he get back before the championship game, he got back for the regular season, which is a lot quicker than most people thought. And who would have blamed him? It's a top 10 pick in the draft. Who would have blamed him if he would have made a business decision? Here's a guy that rushed to get back. Look, if I wasn't a Tennessee fan, I would be celebrating that. I think that's great for college football. Unfortunately for Tennessee, it's probably not going to be great for their brand of college football on Saturday, because he really does open it up. I mean, he's a low-key most valuable player type in college football. He just is when he's on the field. And he was pretty good. I mean, he was pretty good against Ole Miss, George, and he wasn't even supposed to be out there, to your point.
I know.
And he was good. And he was good.
So is it as simple as Georgia has to do what the Bills did last night?
Yeah.
Give it away 2 or 3 times for this to work? For this upset possibility?
We need Josh Allen to walk through that door. Josh Allen is the king of the goofy turnover. I don't know Tennessee's going to get that, but they need to hope for that. And Josh Allen, that one turnover he had at midfield, the fourth one last night, on a handoff.
The handoff.
I mean, how many handoffs have you executed in your life and you just drop a ball on the ground? I mean, what in the world? Is he fixing games? I mean, what? Anyway, Tennessee really has to be defensively Saturday much more alert, and they got to play with some more fire than they have. They're not getting home with quarterbacks anymore. For a stretch, our fan base was kind of whining about the fact that you didn't see there was too much holding going on and the guys are being held. You know, that only goes so far. And then after a while, you got to go play and you got to make your own plays. And Tennessee's defense has just been just not very good. And then the offense on the other side of the equation. The other night we got disengaged Joe Milton, and disengaged Joe Milton might as well not even show up. He's over there smiling and laughing, and you're getting your brains beat in. And I mean, I suppose that's the modern day athlete.
Kelly, I'm not sure how to respond to that, except
I mean, Kelly, you think that's funny when your team's getting his brains blown up, beat in, and you're over there laughing? You think that's funny?
Well, I said that yesterday about a little bit about KJ Jefferson at Arkansas. Like, the guy is an unbelievably talented guy. He turns the ball over too much, but like I said yesterday, he never moves the needle for me. And it's kind of the same thing for Joe Milton. As a quarterback, you have to, like, the new word today is bring juice. You've got to bring energy. You got to bring leadership. And it doesn't look like KJ Jefferson does it. And it did not look like that the other day. I mean, I've seen, when Cam Newton was in that Super Bowl, I forget who they were playing. Maybe it was Denver. I think it was Denver. But like, he played well all year, and then something goes wrong, and then he just looked like he was disengaged, like you just said. And that's kind of how it felt the other day with Joe Milton. I mean, you're watching him throw balls, and he's so bad throwing the ball downfield. And we've talked about it ad nauseum on here, but like where does that get any better? I'm just not sure. And then we were talking about it yesterday about, like, can they play well against Georgia? Can the fans get in it? And I said, I don't think it matters if the fans are in it. They just can't. They're not ready for Georgia. I don't think. We'll see Saturday, because things can change. But like, if you don't have a quarterback that's playing well and that can make plays in this SEC of today, you're behind the 8 ball.
Well, and I think, the thing about Milton that's gonna at the NFL level, they're gonna see him and they're gonna see his arm. And they're going, wow.
Oh yeah.
The buyer beware on that arm is, as a friend of mine says, it's in professional baseball. There's a difference between having a big arm and arm talent. A lot of people have big arms. Few have arm talent. The ability to put the ball where you want it to be. The ability to kind of feel what you're doing, like when you're trying to pitch, the ability to kind of feel what's called for to get this person out that's in front of you. And a lot of people are blessed with big arms. One of my callers said about Milton, and this is not a slam at him, it's just an observation. He's a guy that just doesn't make the guys around him better. He just doesn't raise them up. And that's not good. I would rather have somebody with lesser ability that has the ability to raise up the people around him than to have somebody that has a big, strong arm that's just out there smiling and cutting up and laughing. I mean, I'm sorry. And I'm not piling on the guy because they lost the other day, because truly that loss was not about him. I mean, that was a total team collapse job. That wasn't just Joe Milton. But if you don't have one of those quarterbacks that can look at everybody and go, look, this is not going to happen to us today. Not on my watch. And then you go over there and scream at the defense. I mean, you've been there, Kelly. You go over there and scream, especially at the collegiate level, when you're a really good player, you go over there and scream and defense, hey, guys, this ain't going to happen on my watch. We're not going through this today. But Milton just over there, kind of is what it is. You can't tell what the score is by looking at him, Kelly.
No. I'm with you. I mean, it's that like Tony, is that the modern day athlete? Like I was talking the other day with Tim Couch. We were texting back and forth, and like it just seems like that is the modern day athlete. And I'm afraid that all this NIL stuff and all this transfer portal stuff is going to just accelerate the problem with like guys go out there. I can remember being in games in college, and it was a totally different era, but we were getting beat, but you had no guys on our team that would quit. Now guys see adversity in front of them, and they just don't step up. As Coach Donnelly used to say, they don't step up to the licking block, son. Like, is this the new age athlete that we're seeing?
No, I think these guys work really hard, and from your son, these guys work really hard at this.
No question.
And I think competitors are always going to compete, but there's always been through the history of time, some people that have that little extra it in them, and some people that, are just out there to put their uniform on because they're pretty good at it. And look, Brock Bowers is a great example of that. Should he be on the field this weekend? If that was your son, would you let him on that field this weekend and risk all that he has to gain? But he opted back in. Think about it. That guy opted back in. That guy easily could have sat out. So, and I still think there's a lot of those guys in all these sports that are highly competitive people. But you got to find them. And to your point, in the NIL era, and then we have this era where these coaches tell these kids, as you know, hey, I'm going to be there for you. And the minute another job opens, and it's not even head coaches, it's the assistant coaches lying to these kids, recruiting guys knowing I'm not going to be there in February. I'm not going to be there, but I'm going to go sign them all anyway.
No, you're absolutely right. But it seems like the Georgias of the world and Alabamas of the world, those are two. But I can remember a couple of years ago when Alabama, I guess it was last year, when they went to the bowl game against Kansas State, and they didn't have anything to play for, yet they had the number 1 pick that played and the number 3 pick or number 4 pick in Will Anderson. Both those guys played, and they weren't playing for a national championship. So it just seems like they're breeding that. And yes, I would want my son to play. That's just kind of who I am. That's kind of the way I taught him. It does, I don't want him to get hurt, obviously. And if he's like Brock Bowers' talent, you don't want Brock Bowers to get hurt, but like that's part of the deal. Like, let's go play football and let's not worry about that. If we're playing hard, normally you get injured when you're out there loafing. And, that doesn't always happen, obviously, but I would want my son to play. And it just seems like certain organizations have got that instilled in their kids. And I don't know, but my next question to you is defensively, man, like where did that come from? Like we've talked about this all year, and Tennessee's defense has played really well. They've got some really good players on defense. They finally got some team speed, but the other day, man, golly, that Schrader kid played at Division II the year before, and the guy had over 300 yards of total offense. Like, where did that come from? What happened to UT's defense?
Well, I don't know, but they had bad schemes. Bad schemes. Josh Heupel stood before the media afterwards and said something to the effect of, they did things that we hadn't seen, we weren't expecting, which you don't hear head coaches say that. And somehow they were able to isolate Tennessee's young linebacker in the middle there and just time after time victimize him. The kid from the mid-state, the Herring kid.
Yeah.
And in my mind, Kelly, at some point, it's not the Herring kid's fault. I mean, if that happens over and over again, you've got to adjust as a coach. And Tennessee just sat there and just let it happen to them over and over again. I mean, it almost got comical. There was a situation on the goal line where Tennessee had them pinned on a 3rd and long on their goal line after punting the ball down there. And this Australian punter the Vols have is really developed into a weapon. I mean, pinning teams on your goal line, but you got to be able defensively to play a little bit. And there's a 3rd and long, and not only do they lose the quarterback, but he's 21 yards deep into their defense before anybody's even in the picture. How can that happen on the goal line? I mean, how does that? And that's the kind of day it was for Tennessee. Ironically enough, Tennessee's defensive coordinator, Tim Banks, today was named as a finalist for the Broyles Award, which really thrills our fan base. They're rooting for him at this point.
Do you think that with Heupel saying that, you think that's kind of an excuse? Because you're right. I mean, at some point, the X's and O's, but just like Tom Moore used to tell me, it's the Jimmys and Joes. And if you got the Jimmys and Joes, you have to be able to adjust on the fly. And I'm just not sure that what they were doing. Do you still think the defense was given 100%? Do you think those guys were in it fully, or did they get to a point where they said, "Hey, this is too much of a mountain to climb. We lost this game"?
I had somebody, that was kind of milling around the bench area the other day say that the defenders were talking amongst themselves. Were kind of like, "Hey, we're always on the field." That's what they were saying the other day. Look, I think those guys play hard, but I think that's got to be exhausting to have a quarter of football where you're on the field for 13 and a half minutes. Tennessee got the ball for the Tennessee defense turned Missouri over after Missouri possessed the ball for a good 7 minutes, in that first drive, but got the ball at the midfield on a turnover. And then the offense went 3 and out. And Missouri had the ball for the rest of the quarter. Really strange beginning to that one. And the Vols were never, and I mean never, ever, ever in that game, even though if they would have handled the end of the first half properly and not had a fumble, they probably would have been leading at halftime. Really weird effort by just overall the way the game went.
Yeah, and this is my last question. It's not Joe Milton's fault. There's no question about that. He's got a ceiling that, I don't, I like the kid. I don't know where he can go with it, but do you think that Heupel is this is his ride or die? He's going to go with him this year. It doesn't matter what happens. I mean, deep down, do you think he's like throwing up his hands? Like, what else can I do?
One thought I had is I wonder if internally they talk about this. What would it have been like if they would just said to the freshmen, "Hey, we're just going to let you play and grow"? Probably could have gone 8-4 doing that. You probably could have 8-4, 7-5. I mean, I would think they'd have enough team to go 7-5 against that schedule, 8-4, something like that, which is probably where you're going to end up. And, the thing about Joe Milton is he's just very tantalizing. That's why he's going to get an opportunity at the next level. But
Oh, yeah.
Unless he gets a serious gene, he won't even make it as a backup quarterback there because they won't put up with that there.
The problem with Joe Milton. Go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I'm kind of like you. I mean, you said something earlier. The NFL and the college is the same way. Like you get a high school kid that is unbelievably freakish, but like he's so inconsistent. Well, somebody in college is going to say, well, they didn't know how to coach him. Well, it's the same thing in the NFL. They're going to be like, well, they didn't know what to do to him. They didn't know how to coach him or how to use him or do his fundamentals right. So somebody's going to give him an opportunity. I think you're absolutely right, Tony.
Yeah.
Sorry, Billy.
No, I was just going to say he's a box of chocolates, man. You open it up, you wake up on a Saturday and you just don't know what you're going to get. And like you said earlier, Tony, there's no really emotion. It's like the emotional attachment. He could have thrown an interception and he's still just as positive as if he would have just thrown a touchdown. There's just no difference there.
No, and look, I'm not saying for a guy to be like somebody that points at people and, on the field, you can go too far with that as well. But to some extent, when everybody's kind of dead to the world, it's a quarterback's job to say, hey, not going to happen today. We're just not going to do it. And if it happens, it happens. But it can't be, you just can't project that. I'm not trying to pick at him. The other thing that's going to be really interesting, guys, and this is something new for all of us that are watching this stuff. This transfer portal is insane. Tennessee today, Cooper Mays said today, and this is what I'm talking about. Think about this. Cooper Mays, Tennessee center, could come back next year and play. He could be an NFL caliber player. I have no idea. He's a little undersized. He's not going to get any bigger. So a guy like him, does he sink or swim? Does he jump into the NFL or does he come back here next year? In the meantime, George, Tennessee has to worry about all these teams now. Their roster,
Yeah.
the Monday after the championship games are played, so that first Monday in December, these schools have that transfer portal open. So now you got to decide, is my center going to be here next year? Do I need to go get one? Because I don't have one on my roster. The Vols do not have one on their roster. So is this guy going to go to the NFL? Do I have to go get one? And it all lays right on top of that first signing period on December 20th. That's the most idiotic schedule. Think about that for a second.
That is insane.
The most idiotic, stupid, insane, makes no sense. Why isn't that transfer window in February?
Because nobody's got a brain in that deal. I mean, anybody with any common sense can take what you're saying and see that. I mean, this is part of why coaching is not as much fun as it used to be, because it's just babysitting 101, trying to read the tea leaves, go on these things and see if the guy released any news that might tell him something. It's completely screwed up. Charlie Baker, if you're out there listening, help it.
Well, you're right. I was thinking about just that little example, but it's going on that times 50. If you think about it on any of these rosters, is this guy going to be here? Is he going to jump in? Has somebody, now with Cooper Mays, he's not going anywhere. He's either going to play here or he's going to go try the NFL route. But Tennessee's in a spot where they don't have his backup on the roster. They don't have a backup center on the roster next year. They don't. So they've got to figure out, okay, am I going to count on this guy and grow a kid, which, if he comes back, but this guy owes it to himself to see the process through. So now I've got this artificial deadline where I've got this window that's on top of me. And if I want to go get somebody that can really help us and really play, I got to act quickly.
And do I dare call the kid in and ask him to look me in the eye and be honest, or does it piss him off and then he goes in the portal the next day?
Now you're talking. Now, why would you ever create a system like that exists where, and at the same time, you're still trying to close on your signing class right there in December? Why would you ever in a million years create a system and then once you see it in action, why wouldn't you adjust it? Why wouldn't you have that in February after signing day, that window there, that 30-day window? Now I see what I've signed. I understand what my roster is. You understand what our roster is. Everybody understands what they're getting into. But no, we got to put that thing right there in December and look, these guys are making way too much money. It's not even about them. It's just about how stupid it is. I mean, it's just stupid.
By the way, in a related note, we have a late trustee that's willing to add an extra $10 million to the fund Jimbo Fisher, so it's now up to $85 million.
My favorite thing about that story, George, is that there's no mitigation in his deal, so he can go get a job for $6 or $8 million next year, and he's going to make both.
Unbelievable.
It does not count against his deal. So
doesn't happen that way in radio.
On top of the stack, and I'll tell you what, Kelly, if you or I had a deal like that, I think we'd get a lot more attractive. But I'm spoken for. I'm spoken for, brother.
I'm Abercrombie and Finch material, dude, with my gray hair.
Brother. You're looking good.
That's right.
Whatever. Tell me where people can hear you, and we're wishing good health for you soon.
Yeah, tonight, believe it or not, because we have COVID in our house, my lovely wife has this now too. Generally, I'd have somebody in here doing our Garza Law Tennessee basketball overtime program, but I'm going to do that this evening, which I'm really looking forward to because they're only a 33-point favorite tonight against Wofford.
Tony.
I'm on the competition. You know, I like a good train wreck as much as the next person. This Tennessee basketball team this year, guys, is nasty good. Ooh. I mean, they're nasty good. At any rate, so I've got a free blog up every day over at tclub.team. Like I said, the other day we were on for like 4.5 hours after that game, which was too much fun for me to take. I was only supposed to do 3 hours, but I looked down and I just realized that I'm such a sicko, George, that I thought it was 3 hours and it was 4.5. I'm not kidding you.
Oh gosh.
Pretty lazy guy. So maybe I'll get to work one of these days.
Please do. You need a work ethic. Hey, We'll talk soon.
Thank you, guys. Much love. Thanks.